Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Manny and I shall be talking to you in regards to the minimum legal drinking age in the United States. The National Minimum Drinking Age Act of 1984, also known as the Federal Uniform Drinking Age Act, was passed by the United States Congress as a way to require all states to enforce the age of 21 years as the minimum age for purchasing and publicly possessing alcoholic beverages. The main goal of the MLDA, or minimum legal drinking age, is to lower the rates of teenage alcoholism and drunk driving. Any state that does not enforce the MLDA is subject to a 10% decrease in its annual federal highway appointment under the Federal Aid Highway Act. This in effect pressures all states to enforce the MLDA or lose a substantial chunk of their federal transportation funds. My claim is that the National Minimum Drinking Age Act of 1984 is ineffective as a solution to solve irresponsible alcohol consumption. Because first, it is inefficient to enforce. Second, it encourages minors to drink privately and unsupervised. And third, it fails to educate teens and young adults about the responsibilities and consequences of drinking alcohol. In support of my secondary claim that the MLD is inefficient to enforce, according to the Journal of Studies on Alcohol, over 12 million underage youth drink annually. In 2005, they consumed 15% of all alcohol sold in the United States, totaling $19.8 billion in sales, and providing profits of $3.6 billion in the alcohol industry. According to self-reports by U.S. high school students in 2005, as reported by the Center for Disease Control, 74% had at least one drink of alcohol on one or more days during their life. 26% had their first drink of alcohol before age 13. 43% had at least one drink of alcohol on one or more occasions in the past month. 26% had 5 or more drinks of alcohol in a row, in other words, binge drinking in the past month. And 4% had at least one drink of alcohol on school property on one or more days in the past month. The Underage Drinking Enforcement Training Center reports that the repercussive cost of underage drinking in 2005 totaled $60.3 billion, which includes traffic crashes, property crimes, injury, violence, and alcohol treatment, among others. With such a high degree of underage alcohol consumption happening, it is clear that enforcing the MLDA is inefficient and that a new solution is needed. Here is an example of how the drinking age restriction, due to its flaws and constraints, encourages minors to drink privately and unsupervised, which occasionally leads to tragedy. Gordy was 18, a freshman at the University of Colorado in 2004. He had been there only 1 month when he underwent the Chi Psi fraternity initiation with 26 other pledges who were also underage. The pledges were asked to drink 10 gallons of hard alcohol and wine in half an hour. This ended badly for Gordy, who was later left on the library couch incapacitated and eventually died of alcohol poisoning. If the drinking age had been 18 instead of 21, would the kids have called for help when Gordy passed out? Asked an interviewer. Gordy's mom, Leslie, thinks so. His stepfather, Michael, replies, they had minors buying the alcohol, serving the alcohol to minors. They had to make a decision about what they were going to do, and unfortunately, they made the wrong decision. The problem in this situation and in many related cases is that due to the illegality of underage drinking, when something goes wrong, who is going to do the right thing and report the incident, knowing that they are implicating every minor involved, including themselves. A recent study of binge drinking published in the Journal of the American Medical Association announced that despite efforts at prevention, the prevalence of binge drinking among college students is continuing to rise, and so are the harms associated with it. Of the 5,000 lives lost to alcohol each year by those under 21, more than 60% are lost off the roadways, according to the National Institute of Alcoholism and Alcohol Abuse. The MLDA may have reduced traffic-related deaths due to alcohol, but only since it transferred those deaths off the roadways to miscellaneous locales. John McCardle, an advocate for changing the MLDA, states that we have lived through prohibition. We know prohibition doesn't work. We know that on our college campuses. We know that in our households. We know that in the military. We know that in non-college America as well. Legal age 21 seeks to impose prohibition on young adults. And that's the way, and in my view, the only way to look at this question. With this in mind, solving the problem of irresponsible consumption of alcohol it's not as simple as prohibiting alcohol from a particular age group, but really about educating them to understand the responsibilities and consequences that drinking entails. Without proper education, people will continue to misuse alcohol. The National Minimum Drinking Age Act of 1984 does nothing to address this problem, and instead relies on enforcement of the law by authority figures, which has proven to be inefficient and through restricted sales. All this does is provoke minors to drink privately and unsupervised, which results in unnecessary problems and even death. Once again, the National Minimum Drinking Age Act of 1984 is ineffective as a solution to solve irresponsible alcohol consumption, because first, it is inefficient to enforce, second, it encourages minors to drink privately and unsupervised, and third, it fails to educate teens and young adults about the responsibilities and consequences of drinking alcohol. Thank you for listening.
All right, the proposition's clear. There's a good preview. It takes you a while to get to that proposition. The background should probably go a little bit quicker. Your signposting when you got to the first point was clear. The transition to the second point, it was smooth if you were listening. It was not as clear if you were a casual listener, and the same is the problem with the third point. The information on the third point, I'm not sure that education and whether or not it works is relevant to the claim dealing with the MDLA, and the law. I'm a little fuzzy-headed there. The link on the second point, you just have the one example, and there's an awful lot of inferences that you have to be making from that. The first point, I think that you do a good demonstration that says that it certainly isn't keeping people from drinking. Has it reduced or suppressed drinking at any degree? I'm not sure that the data is possible to come up with that particular conclusion. So what you presented I thought was fine there. On the second point, I think there's a couple of big inferential leaps that need better evidence. And the third point, I'm just not sure that it's relevant to the other 2 points into the claim that you're ultimately making. You did a pretty good job citing your evidence consistently and putting things together. Like I said, the internal language is smooth, although the signposts need to be a little bit sharper. There's a little bit too much reading in the presentation, but your argument was clear. All right, thank you.